Welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing week so far. Today, I wanted to talk about last week's episode and just kind of give you four elements that I find are essential to starting over. And again, there's no roadmap, there's no, right time to start. It's really all about how you feel and when you want to start, but I feel like they are very important steps to setting yourself up for success. So, get ready to join the conversation. Hey, so let's get to it. So, four elements that are important to starting over. And I feel like this could be for, any space that you're trying to transform, right? So, this could be relationship wise, moving to different locations. Whatever you're going through, I feel like these elements are going to help you kind of rationalize and almost help you kind of decide on if you're really ready to take that step, right? You hear me talk about intentionality, like just being intentional about the things that I am doing. And a lot of changes are big steps, right? Because they usually don't just involve you, they involve others. And so it's always such a big deal to ensure that you are thinking through things logically and soundly, right? So, number one, for me, I feel like number one is just understanding that there is no wrong or right time to start your journey. No one should be able to determine when your journey starts for you. Like, that's just something that you have to be prepared and ready to do on your own, right? Like, you have to have the mental capacity, you have to have the mindset for whatever that change is in order for you to essentially give your all, right? Like, so it has to be really when you're ready to. And I say that because when I think about, you know, like nobody being able to tell you when, it's kind of when you have those conversations with maybe your close friends, family, whomever, and you talk about, I'm going through X, Y, and Z at my job, or I am going through X, Y, and Z, dealing with my partner. Um, until you are at that point where you want to make a change, nothing anyone says around you is going to really matter. And I say that to say, someone that is true to you is always probably going to have your best interests at heart. So they're going to be opinionated about something, right? They're going to tell you their point of view. However, you're not going to make the change until you're 100% ready to make that change. So it's definitely something that you have to be ready for. It's definitely something that you have to want, because we can talk about it all day long. However, if there's no action and there's no action on your part, then whatever you're trying to do, it's just not going to work. There's no kind of drive behind it. So what's the motivation, right? Like, why am I motivated to do something that somebody else wants me to do, right? Like, I have to be 100% committed to whatever change that I'm trying to make. So just understand that it all has to be in the right timing. It all has to be according to your time, and no one can rush you or make you feel bad about not wanting to make a change when they seem fit, right? Like, if that is the case, then that number one may not be one of the people that you want to necessarily confide in or take on this journey, right? Because you need people around you that are going to be supportive, and that we'll get into that element as well. However, the timing factor has to, number one, be something that you are anticipating, something that is well thought out and well planned out. But again, it has to be in your timing. So ensure that you don't feel rushed by what somebody else is going through or what you're seeing through, through somebody else. I have conversations with women all the time, and they're just like, man, I wish that I could just, start and pick up and leave this situation, or find another job because I know what I want to do and I know where I want to be. And, I can tell you all day long, well, just do it, go and do it, like do it tomorrow. But if you are not mentally prepared, if you don't have the mindset for whatever action you're trying to take, it's not really going to benefit you to do something that somebody else is not even going to go through. So take that into account. Number one, there's no wrong or right time to start your journey. It is absolutely your journey, no one else's. So make sure that the timing is right for you. So number two, be intentional. If you know you're going to start this journey, figure out what issues you have and how complicit you are in those issues and fight to change them. So if I am in a relationship and I'm not a great communicator, we kind of know what our issues are, right? Because we make jokes all the time about it. If I wanted to, I could do, I could do this or I could do that, whatever the case is. But we know where our faults lie. Acceptance and accountability is going to be a big part in this, right? Because no one likes to look bad. No one wants to admit that they have issues. However, how can you overcome certain things if you don't accept them about yourself? Come to the realization that you are an adult, right? And you need to start making changes. So accountability is going to be a really big factor. If I know that I'm not a great communicator, I may take steps to understand why I'm not a great communicator. Like, do I fly off the handle when somebody says something that makes me uncomfortable? Do I not know how to articulate or not physically voice what I'm feeling? And so I go into a rage or I shut down completely. I used to be one of those types that was shut down. I've always been a very sensitive child. My mom could yell at me and that was it for me, right? I've never had a whooping, none of those kind of things. It was just that I'm such a people pleaser, right? I always want to do good. And when I wasn't doing good, that hurt my feelings enough to where you could yell at me, you could look at me some kind of way, and I was automatically just sad, And so growing up in a home where we didn't really express our feelings, right? Everything was kind of because I said so, that kind of thing. I didn't really understand how to express myself. I wasn't a very expressive child. I always liked to be the quietest one in the room. People would tell me that all the time. And so that transcended into my adult life, right? I would get into a situation and I wouldn't really know how to express myself vocally to get out of that situation. And so as I went through my latest relationship, and I decided that I wanted to make a change, that was number one on my list. I want to become an effective communicator. And so I love to journal. I love to write. And this really worked for me. And I still do it to this day. I could be anywhere. And if I have a piece of paper, that paper is pretty much gone. I'm writing over every inch of it. Some things make sense, some things don't, but it's almost like therapeutic for me to write. And so I write down things, or I write down feelings. And I ultimately started by writing down what I wanted to express, So I would say, I want to be a better communicator. Enough is enough. I would just literally write whatever would come to mind, as well as those things that I wanted to change about myself on a piece of paper. Now, I didn't really always keep this stuff until I started journaling in actual journals. However, I would just write it down, and it kind of helped me become a little bit more confident in what I was feeling, to where I was open and okay with talking to other people. And the more I talked to other people about certain things, the more I understood that other people like to communicate as well. I feel like it's just a matter of figuring out what that trigger is when something happens. Do you care so much that when someone says something about the way you're behaving, it automatically triggers you in a negative way, to where you either shut down or you go off, or you blow up? What is it? And then start trying to change those things, but be intentional about them. So maybe you practice at work, right? Because or practice, with family or friends, and just have open conversations expressing yourself. And the more that you express yourself and understand that other people feel the same way, or that they want to be able to express themselves as well, you'll grow more comfortable with it. Right. So that's how I'm able to have all of these conversations. That's how I'm able to, meet men and express exactly what it is that I want. Right. And I don't feel like at any time you should have to sugarcoat anything. Like, you don't have to say anything that you think I want to hear. Like, let that be known, point blank, period. Right. Like, I want authenticity every single time. And that starts with being able to effectively communicate that. I just think being able to communicate on so many different levels is really, it's really essential to just living a really good life, right? Like, because if you can't express your expectations, then people are going to kind of do whatever it is that they either think you want them to do or whatever they want to do, right? And we have to stop allowing people to do what they want to do in our lives to us, right? When we can just kind of figure out like how I want to communicate or where I want to be, right? You'll always hear how communication is key. And I think that is it's a very complex saying, right? Because communication is so complex. Communication can be body language. Communication can be the inaction of somebody else, right? Like, I can say something or want something of you, and either your response or non-response is a form of communication, right? The way people regard you, in a manner of just everything. Like, if I call you and I leave you a voice message and you never call me back, I have to assume that you don't want to talk to me, right? Like, there's just, communication is just so multifaceted that I think it's very important when you learn the vocal part of it, that everything else kind of starts to fall into place. And the third thing, it's important to have a strong support system, right? We already kind of know who we can confide in, with our most raw and vulnerable selves, right? So I think it's very important to have a support system set up in place, someone that you can confide in, someone that you can bounce healthy ideas off of, someone that when you tell them, hey, I'm really working on, trying to turn my life around, and I'm looking to start a savings. I really want to be in a place of a little bit more financial freedom. That person is going to say, you know what? I was there once, and this is kind of how I started. I support you 100%. Like, it's important to have those people around you that wholeheartedly have, your interest at heart, right? Like, someone that you can count on to not necessarily pressure you to reach some kind of end result. However, lend a ear, maybe it's give an opinion or two about trials that they've been through and how they've overcome it. But ultimately, just kind of there to help you get through your journey. It's just important to have that positivity around you, right? You want people that are uplifting, that are positive, that are going to feed into you, right? Like, it's very important that you are very careful when you're on your journey about surrounding yourself by positive people. It's already a very emotional and mental task to restart. And I feel like you definitely want people that are optimistic around you, that are bright lights, that not are automatically going to tell you what you want to hear, right? Because you don't want that. You want somebody that's going to be real and honest with you. However, you do want the positive person, the person that can help you see the bright side of your situation, right? Or help you determine, hey, I've tried this, we've done this, maybe next time take this approach. That person that is going to cheer you on 100%, Again, not necessarily like rush you through the process or, be tired of it after day 3 of you saying, hey, this was more challenging than I thought. Somebody that's going to be there with you and be like, it definitely is, but it's a never ending journey, right? So you want that positive influence, somebody that is almost living the actual course that you're wanting to go. And I find that, I think that's just true to life, right? Like if I am trying to start a business, I'm not going to surround myself by people that don't have the drive to do anything other than go to work for somebody else. I'm not going to necessarily surround myself by those people that every time you think of an idea are like, oh, well, I don't know if that's going to work. I feel like there's so much in this world already that it's very negative, very draining. I think you need people that are realistic, but also very optimistic around you, right? That believes in your journey and believes in you, number 1. And then there's number 4. So this one is very, very important because I find that a lot of times we are so self-critical, right? But in everything you do, give yourself grace. There are going to be times during this journey where you're going to feel defeated. You may backslide a little bit, and you may even think about just giving up. However, give yourself grace. Like you have to understand that things take consistency over time, right? Like it's not just going to be easy for you to transition and make a life change and everything just go perfect and smooth, right? There's going to be times where you may say, okay, I'm going to start journaling every day, and I want to be I want to have a better outlook on life. So I'm going to work on my gratitude. I have a journal, a gratitude journal, and it literally just says, I am grateful for. And every day, for 5 minutes, I write in it. And in the beginning, it was rough. Like I would go 2 days and I would be so amped, like getting up, get my coffee, sit down at the table, start writing. I am grateful for waking up, this is a new opportunity for me. It's a new day. It's a fresh start, and then I would get busy to where, life kind of comes at you fast, right? Especially if you have children and I'm trying to work and I'm traveling with work, but then I have, sports and I'm trying to coordinate with my sister to get my kids, to X, Y, and Z. And I'm having to book flights and book hotel rooms and, all kinds of things. So there's things that come up to where you are, throwing those curveballs to where, I may not journal for 3 days because in all my commotion, I left my notebook at home, or, in all my, daily dealings, I've, kind of just been extremely tired. And so, instead of just saying, okay, well, I'm just going, whatever, it's just whatever. No, pick up and start right back, give yourself grace to make those small mistakes or to have your schedule altered to where you need to figure out, hey, am I not journaling in the morning? Maybe I'm having to do it in the evening. Maybe I'm having to do it in the bathroom when I first get home before everybody bum rushes me. Like we have to figure it out, right? And we just can't give up. Realizing that this is 100% your journey. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be some ups and downs, some ins, some outs. It's going to happen, and you're going to need to reset, or you're going to try something and it's not necessarily going to work, right? You're going to have that trial and error. But through that trial and error, that's where you're able to become more consistent and you're able to understand, hey, this worked for me or this didn't really work for me. So now I have adapted this practice or whatever else. So I feel like it's very important to give yourself some room to have to make changes and to alter it. And again, that support system is going to say, hey, that's okay. Sometimes you have to make those changes and you have to do X, Y, and Z because what works for me may not work for you. So I know that was a lot in a short amount of time. And so kind of just to recap, the 4 elements that I feel are essential to starting over is going to be number 1, just understanding that there is no wrong or right time to start, right? Like this is all about you. When you are ready, you will line up all of the steps necessary to start on this new journey, and you're going to kill it. You're going to absolutely knock it out of the park. Number 2, you're going to be intentional, right? Like, we are going to understand and accept and be accountable for our actions or our inactions, right, that have led us to where we are. And we're going to start making those changes. We're going to specifically say, I want to be better at communicating, and then I'm going to work towards that 100%. Number 3, you're going to have your strong support system, right? And you already have that, right? You have friends that you know you can tell everything to, that family member, whoever, that you don't feel judgment from, that really accepts you and loves you for who you are. And that strong support system is going to help you get through it. And then 4, you're going to give yourself grace, right? You are going to understand that you are so capable of achieving whatever it is that you want. It's just going to take a little time. You know, you may have to change your mindset a little bit. You may have to change some physical actions a little bit, your daily routine. However, you're going to give yourself grace to understand that, you know, I may not just be feeling well today, but tomorrow I'm going to get back up and I'm coming stronger than ever. And that's it, guys. Again, I am so grateful that you decided to spend some time with me today. I am cheering you on. So feel free to leave me feedback. You can find me on Instagram as Keisha Chanel. I also have my Patreon that's packed with some really great content. Links are in the show notes. Until next time.